All right, let's just jump right in. Today, we're not trying to boil the ocean here. We're not tackling some giant historical epic. Instead, we are zooming way in, getting laser focused on just one single, powerful verse from the book of Revelation. It's just one sentence, but wow, it packs in a serious paradox about people and suffering.
So here it is, Revelation 16, verse 11. Now think about this reaction for a second. These people are suffering, right? They've got pains and sores, and what do? They don't beg for help, they don't ask for mercy, they curse God. They're in total agony, and yet they seem to double down on the very things that got them into this mess. It's a really shocking response when you stop and think about it.
And that leads us to the big question, the central mystery we're unpacking today. It just doesn't seem to make sense, does it? You would think that being in that much pain would be the ultimate wake-up call, you know? The one thing that would make you want to change. But here, it does the exact opposite. It makes them dig their heels in even harder. So what is going on? To really get it, we've got to go deeper.
And our first step to cracking this code is to look at the words themselves, in the original language. Because, the specific words that were chosen in ancient Greek, they're not just random. They carry so much weight and reveal all these layers of meaning that can kind of get lost in translation. So, let's break this thing down. First up, we've got this word blasphemeo, which we read as blasphemed. But this is so much more than just someone crying out in pain. The Greek here implies something active, something intentional. It means to slander, to speak evil against, to insult. This isn't an act of desperation, it's an act of defiance.
Okay, so what about the pains? The Greek word is phlipsis, and this isn't just like a headache or a stubbed toe. This word paints a picture of immense pressure, of being completely crushed by trouble and distress. It's a deep, overwhelming kind of suffering.
And the sores? That word is plague. Now this is interesting. It literally means a blow or a stroke, like you've been struck, or even a plague. So the feeling here isn't that this suffering is just bad luck. It feels like they're being hit by something, wounded by a direct force. And finally, we get to the word at the absolute heart of this whole puzzle, metanoeo, which means to repent. But what it literally means is to change one's mind. It's about a fundamental shift in how you think, in the direction you're going. And the verse is crystal clear. Despite all the pressure and all the plagues, this change of mind, it did not happen.
Okay, so now that we've got a better feel for the original language, let's zoom back out. Because it turns out this whole defiant reaction, it's not a one-off thing in the book of Revelation. It's actually part of a much bigger, repeating pattern.
Just look at this. The phrase, did not repent, shows up again and again and again whenever these judgments are described. You see it just 2 verses earlier, in verse 9. You see it back in chapter 9. It's this constant theme. Judgment comes down, and the response is to just harden.
And, this pattern might be ringing a bell for you. It's the exact same dynamic as the story of Pharaoh back in the book of Exodus. Remember that? Plague after plague hits Egypt, and what does Pharaoh do? He doesn't give in. His heart gets harder and harder. It's the same spiritual psychology we're seeing right here in Revelation.
All right, so we've got the language, we've got the biblical pattern, but now we're going to take a sharp turn. We're going to explore a totally different, symbolic way of reading this verse that might just flip the whole thing on its head, especially what those pains and sores really are. So let's just ask a wild question. What if the pain, the sores, what if they weren't literal boils on the skin or some kind of physical torment raining down from the sky? What if the thing causing all this agony was something, or maybe someone else entirely? So you've got 2 ways to look at this verse. On the one hand, there's the literal reading. God sends plagues, people get mad and curse him. Simple enough. But then there's this symbolic reading, and it suggests something pretty radical, that the cause of all that rage, the very thing that felt like a pain and a sore to the religious system of the day, was the ministry and presence of Jesus Christ himself.
And there it is. That's the core of this whole reinterpretation. The idea that Jesus himself became their pain and sore. And why? Because his life, his teachings, his miracles, they were like a blindingly bright light suddenly turned on in a dark, dusty room. It exposed all the corruption in their religious system, and for them, that exposure was excruciating. I mean, just think it through. Every time Jesus healed a sick person, it showed everyone that the religious leaders had no real power. Every time he spoke, his words just cut right through their comfortable man-made traditions. When he claimed he could forgive sins, well, that took away their control over the people. His very existence revealed that their entire system was like a festering, infected wound.
So if we follow this radical rereading, it doesn't just change the verse, it leads us to this incredible, jaw-dropping conclusion, a moment of pure, divine irony right at the center of the whole story.
And this amazing irony plays out in 4 steps. 1. Jesus shows up and reveals the truth, which exposes corruption. 2. The religious establishment feels this truth like an agonizing pain. 3. They refuse to change their minds, and instead, they commit the ultimate act of blasphemy. They condemn and crucify God in the flesh. But, and here is the ultimate twist, in doing that, they accidentally fulfilled the very plan for the world's salvation. Their greatest act of rejection became our greatest hope.
And you know what? The story doesn't even stop with that mind-bending irony. We're told that after the resurrection, a whole bunch of the very same priests and leaders who were so tormented by Jesus, the ones who rejected him, they finally had that change of mind. They repented. They came to believe. And all of that brings us to this final thought. When we deconstruct this one little verse, it reveals this deep pattern, not just in an ancient book, but in us, in human nature. And it kind of forces us to ask a tough question about our own lives. How often is the thing that feels like a pain and a sore, that criticism we hate, that truth that makes us uncomfortable, how often is that the very thing we need most to heal and to change?